Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TheMsTexasShow. This is the show where we highlight amazing lives in Texas and everywhere, and our amazing survivors, our advocates, our Queen sisters, our community leaders, community organizations to share their stories around traumatic events as well as anything that's happening. We partner with the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce and invite our veterans to come on the show and share their stories after military and see what they're doing in their community. We also have another sector called Beautiful Ashes. This is where we invite our Queen sisters, our artists, last but not least, our survivors to come on the show and share their amazing stories and impact they're making in their communities. If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can email us at msusatexas@gmail.com. It is msusatexas@gmail.com. You can also direct message us through the same name, MSUSA Texas, on Facebook. This show is sponsored by Hope PYX Global. It is a nonprofit organization supporting survivors and victims from all backgrounds against domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault. We couldn't be here without your support. If you would like to support us on what we do and help bring the voice of hope to our victims and survivors, you can donate at www.hopepyx.org. Now, without further ado, we are bringing back again our beautiful, our Queen sister, Miss Lisa Tauai. Lisa Tauai is United States of America, Mrs. Southern Nevada, but she's not just the beautiful queen that you're seeing, she's beautiful inside out and so talented. She is a veteran, and salute to you, sister, for serving the country. And now she's helping the community. She is a registered dietitian. When we heard that she shared that she lost 85 pounds and she's a dietitian, she's so beautiful, we're like, yes, we're gonna have you on. This is the holiday season, and tell us, Lisa, about your secrets, and we're gonna talk about how you're gonna maintain a healthy weight while you're surviving all those good foods through the holidays. How do you do that, Lisa? Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And yes, that is the golden question. How do you go through the holiday season without gaining a lot of weight? It's very common for people to gain upwards of maybe even up to 10 pounds over the holiday season. So I do have a lot of little tricks and things that would be very beneficial, I think, for the people listening today, that would really help them keep off those extra pounds, and maybe even sometimes they even lose weight during the holidays. I've even seen that happen. But the goal ultimately is trying to maintain your weight during the holiday season. If you can achieve that, I think you've been very, very successful. So, and like you said earlier, I did lose 85 pounds myself. It's a long story as to how I gained that weight in the first place, which I probably won't touch on necessarily for this episode. But I will say that the key to the success in losing the weight and then keeping off the weight that I lost was controlling portion sizes. I think it's the most powerful tool we have in terms of our eating to keep weight where it needs to be. And it's a very simple thing to do, but yet it's very hard for people to do it because food just tastes so good, especially holiday food. But that was definitely what helped me the most, even above exercise and things along those lines. It was controlling how much I ate. I actually measured out what I ate for every meal. I didn't want to do that for the long term, but I did it long enough to shed the weight that I had gained. And then once I reached a weight that I wanted to be at, that I felt best and healthiest at, then I put the measuring tools away and focused a little bit more on, having a good idea of what portions look like just by looking at them, because I got very, very good at understanding what portion sizes are. So let's talk first about portion sizes, just to kind of kick it off, since that really is probably the most important thing, not just for the holiday season, but just in eating in general. If you're really trying to watch your waistline, control your weight, it's really the best tool to focus on. And what I recommend is thinking of portions as they're actually really realistic in terms of an idea I have anyway of keeping an idea what a portion really looks like. So if you put out your hand, the palm of your hand, so the palm of your hand, actually just like this is considered to be about a portion for most foods. It's not stacked up this high. It's about the width of the size of a deck of cards. So if you visualize that amount of food for most things such as meat and starches, that's about what a serving size would be. And our idea on portion sizes are very distorted because when we go out to eat and we're at different functions, we usually have a lot of food on our plate. So we start to believe that's what portions actually look like, but that's not it at all. It's usually a lot more than what we actually need. And usually if you look at different types of foods that you select, it will give you what the portion size is on that container of food. So you have an idea of what the serving size is. And then all you would need to do is measure that out in a dry measuring cup, or if it's a liquid, to measure that out in a liquid measuring cup. And you, of course, also have tools such as measuring spoons as well, which I use all the time for salad dressings and for nuts and seeds and things along those lines. I use measuring spoons. And then also you have the scale, a food scale that you can get on anywhere, really anywhere in town or on Amazon, anywhere online. They're about $10 to $15 for a food scale. And that really helps get an idea of what a portion is for meat. For one, if you weigh out meat, you want to weigh it out cooked. And 3 ounces cooked meat is considered to be what a serving size is actually going to be. You can also weigh out foods that the serving size is in grams or ounces. You can put that on the food scale to keep your serving sizes in check. So portion size is by far the most important thing. And I think that when you control portions and when you're actually eating the food and tasting it, or like truly tasting the food, it helps you control how much you're eating of it. So many times we eat so quickly. I laugh sometimes at my own family. They eat so fast that it's like they inhale the food. They never actually taste it. So it takes about 20 minutes for your stomach to signal to your brain you're full. So if you're eating your meals very fast, even during the holiday season, it's very tempting to get more and more food on the plate because you're not actually satisfied yet. You're not full yet. So you just keep eating. And that's where people run into some problems in terms of gaining some of those extra pounds during the holiday season. So that's one primary thing that one of the biggest tools I think helps in terms of keeping weight in check during the holidays and really any time of the year. It's controlling portion sizes, 100%.
Totally. For those who did not hear the earlier episode that Lisa talked about, that we should appreciate what we have here in the US, because even when we go up north to Canada, and I'll be honest, I went there and I ate my dessert and I was still hungry because I was so spoiled with the portion size here because I've been here for so long. But you're right, anywhere else in the world, we don't get served that much food. Like that food could be like 2 meals and we just absolutely take it for granted. That's how much we eat. But I wanted to kind of clarify. So that portion, does that matter? How many meals a day? Are you talking about this portion for 3 meals a day, or how many meals a day? And then also, does it matter for a person based on their height, their age, maybe their weight? How do we have to sort of differentiate them amongst their age, weight, and height?
So that's a great question. So I work with people individually to determine those sorts of things. So say, for instance, I work with someone and they're trying to lose weight, and based on their weight and their height and their age and also their activity level, I then determine what a rough estimate would be for how many calories they would need to reach their goal. And once I have that number, then from there, I can determine how many grams of carbohydrate, how many grams of protein, and how many grams of fat they need a day. And then I equate that to what that looks like in terms of how much food, how many ounces of meat they need a day, of lean meat, how many servings of a low fat or fat-free dairy product they would need a day, how many servings of fruits and vegetables they would need, how many servings of whole grains they would need a day. So it's very individualized based on the person and what their specific goals are. And depending on the person, you know, I know you have my contact information, but people can always reach out to me to ask me those questions, and I'll be happy to calculate those things for them. And a really good rule of thumb, and I always recommend this, it's very quick and easy, is there is a website called choosemyplate.org. And if you get on that website, you're able to put in roughly how many calories you need a day based on what I calculate for you. And then it will tell you exactly how much food that's going to be in the course of the day. So again, how many ounces of meat, how many servings of fruits and vegetables, low-fat dairy products and whole grains, and healthy fats they would need throughout the day. So it gives people something to kind of strive towards. And then I can take it to the next level and then determine how much food that's going to look like per meal and per snack as well, based on that individual's eating pattern and what their work schedule looks like. I have them on set meal times and also times where they would have set snacks as well. So I kind of take it to that level too, just to kind of take some of the thinking out of it for them. Because sometimes, that's fine. Sometimes it can get complicated if people don't realize how to put all of that together. So they don't realize, you know, what 1,500 calories looks like in a day. And that's where I come in. So I can really help demystify that and put them on a plan of eating that works best for them. And sometimes it takes trial and error too to get it right until we kind of tweak it until it's perfect for them.
That's amazing. You know, you actually answered my next question, because I was going to say, how is that related to, you know, people counting their calories? Because I knew a friend, he was like in his maybe early middle 50s, and he was like always skinny, and I'm like, how do you do that? He said, well, I count my calories. So now you answered the question. So it's sort of similar. So you count the calories, then you can sort of relate that to the portion size in order to control how much quantity that you eat. And that is wonderful. You know, when we come to our age, and I used to think like I can eat whatever I want, used to eat 6 plates at a buffet, and people ask, where did you put it? I said, well, I have a hole in my leg. But it's coming to this time of a year that, you know, I really love my food, but how am I gonna, you know, stay away from the weight but still enjoy the taste? So that, I guess that's, I'm just gonna have to eat less and still be able to like try different things. But that's so wonderful advice. Thank you for that. Now, you know, I also wanted to ask about the protein. So you were talking about last time, for those of you did not hear, like Lisa was telling us, like, you know, put the plate and where you should have, I made my note, correct me if I did my notes correctly. So there's like a half, I think a third plate of protein, third plate of vegetable, and third plate of like wheat or bread or, you know, rice and things like that. Is that about right?
Very close, very, very close. So half your plate should be fruits and vegetables. And then the other half, so a fourth of your plate would be whole grains, and a fourth of your plate would be the lean proteins. And then you'd have a low-fat dairy product on the side if you drink milk or eat yogurt.
Okay. Okay, so
that's a very well balanced meal. And also too, I wanted to let you know that counting calories sometimes gets a little daunting for people. So what I tell them to do is, once I know how many calories they're going to be on, they don't have to necessarily count calories. What they would want to do though is to make sure they stay within the amount of food they need a day, which is what I would give them after I know how many calories they need a day. So then they don't count calories, they just control portions, and they try to get in all that food throughout the course of a day within 3 meals and maybe some snacks in between.
Yeah, I love what you do. You know, you said that you help them kind of manage their schedule, because obviously that's your specialty. And for me, I get stressed out. I'm like, okay, so for instance, I always have food at my desk. I'm guilty of it. These are some like almond chips. I love it because I'm working. I'm just like chewing on it. So how do I know, like something like this? You know, one piece of chips. How many calories would it be, and how many calories average should a person, again, I understand you talked about, you know, we should count the calories based on our weight, age, and activity level, but just on average, how many calories a day per person should have?
So for females, I always recommend that they don't go anytime they don't go below 1,200 calories a day. So 1,200 would be the minimum that females would need a day. And the minimum that males would need a day would be 1,500. And that's just to meet most of your nutritional needs, your carbohydrate, protein, fat, your vitamins and minerals. So if you go below those amounts routinely, you're simply just not getting the nutrients you need throughout the day to perform at your best. And what can happen in those situations is you can develop nutritional deficiencies. Over time, you could lose muscle mass because your body is actually breaking down its own muscle for energy. So it's very, very important to at least meet your minimum calorie requirements every day. And the only way we know what truly the minimum amount of calories a person needs every day is it's something called a metabolic cart. It's a tool that we have in the inpatient setting when people are in the ICU and they're intubated so they can't breathe on their own. We can hook them up to this tool that lets us know how many calories their body needs just to survive. So that's called your basal metabolic rate or your resting energy expenditure. So if we have that number, we know what your baseline is have how many calories you need just to function every day, just for your organs to work and for your body to function. And then we factor in at that point your activity level and some other things to determine what your true calorie needs are. But specifically and routinely, you wouldn't want to go below 1,200 calories a day for females and no lower than 1,500 calories for men. There's not as many of us as you think that need 2,000 calories a day. So on food labels, when you look at different foods that you pick up from the grocery store, on the very bottom of the nutrition facts label, it gives your daily values and it's based on a 2,000 calorie diet. And not as many of us as you think are on that amount of calories a day. It's a little high for several people and it may be low for other people. So that's why knowing what your baseline amount of calories is to meet your specific goals is really important. And so that's the typical guideline I give people for making sure they at least get the minimum. And then we also base it on too, if you're trying to lose weight, what your weight's doing on a weekly basis, just to see if you're losing approximately 0.5 pound to 2 pounds a week. We know you're on the right track in terms of how many calories you're taking in. We also know if you're on the right track, if your waistline is starting to go down, you're measuring your waist and seeing what the inches are. And with time, you start seeing that move in the right direction. We know then that you're creating that calorie deficit to help you meet your goals with weight loss. So it's, again, very individualized, but I would say the 1,200 and 1,500 calorie rule is something that I think is the most important in terms of at least getting the majority of nutrients you need every day.
Wow, I'm learning everything new, like every time. I know like there's like the label, because before I came to the US, we don't read the label, you know, we cook like, that's what I love. I'm like, okay, the size of the palm, the deck of the card. Because when my mom cooked the rice, she's like, okay, pour the rice in there. And then you know how like my friends, they'll cook the rice and they'll measure the cup, say, okay, how many milliliter? I said, I don't know, just to put the finger in, it's this much about. That's what my mom taught me. So like reading the label is very challenging and I'm still learning, but now it totally makes sense. So all the boxes, they come, you know, all marked based on the daily value of 2,000 calories a day. Does that mean, let's assume that I'm supposed to take, you know, say 1,500. So just to make it easier, so that's like 3/4 of that. So I should not take all of it, what it's saying. I should take 3/4.
Right. And if you're not actually on a 2,000 calorie diet, then I wouldn't even worry about that part of the nutrition facts label. It just confuses people, I think.
Right. So, you know, I got I got this thing. So sorry, it's a Monster Mash. It's like cereal, probably not the best you know, example. But so here it says nutritional facts, right? and then it says calories. So if this says 160, so I just should do like 3/4 of it. That means like 120.
That's a serving. Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's what's important. The most important thing on the nutrition facts label is focusing on that serving size, because if the serving size on that 3/4 of a cup, if you have triple that amount, then you have to triple everything else on the nutrition facts label. So it triples the amount of carbohydrate, fat, protein, everything, calories. So that's why the serving size is important.
Right. Wow, that's very important. I definitely learned something because like I said, I think I'm at the point I really need to watch what I eat, not just like go splurge and everything and every time and all the time. And the other question, I guess you talked about carbohydrate. So as and a lot of people already know that I eat too much sweets. Not that I am suggesting or want to be bad influence, but on a day, let's say I go to a birthday party or it's my birthday party, I just want to have my cheat day because and it's the holiday, right? They're gonna have the pumpkin pie and turkey, and obviously more carb than we the stuffing bread, the dinner rolls and everything. So if we do eat more carbs, I know it's not good, but can we just substitute that than other things? Let's say, I don't know, protein or vegetable. What is a solution to save it? Not the best to do every day, but if that happens, what can we do?
So that's an excellent question too. So especially during the holiday season, when you're leading up to Thanksgiving and Christmas and the parties that occur, especially with the pandemic now kind of slowing down a little bit, I think there'll be more people getting out with family members and friends over the holiday season this year. So as you go to, family members' houses and you have all these get-togethers, it's important to plan ahead, knowing that you're probably going to indulge a little bit more than you usually do when you go to these houses and partake in all of the delicious food that's there. So my best advice is to balance it for that day. That you're going to be going to someone's house. So for the times that you're not actually there, maybe eat a little healthier, for the rest of the day to try to balance it out a little bit. Maybe throw in a little bit extra exercise that day, or get in more steps throughout the day. So it kind of balances it out, a little bit better. And knowing too that these holidays only come around once a year. So I fully expect people to enjoy themselves and have a good time, but just try not to go too crazy. Have a little bit of everything. What I do a lot of times in the holiday season is I try a little bit of everything that's available or that's offered. So I just have a little bit of it on my plate, and I only have one plate. I don't go up for multiple ones, and I eat very slowly and actually taste the food, because the food is so good. And if you actually really taste it and chew it, a lot, you get more psychologically satisfied with the food, and you're less apt to eat more and more of it. And the other thing that helps me, especially kind of balance it out and not overdo it on the holidays, is focusing more on talking to people and socializing, less on eating. So I try to stay away from the food table that's usually at these parties and get-togethers. And we all know what that food table looks like. And it's usually right there in the center of everything. And it's got all the goodies laid out. So what I try to do is I go to maybe the other side of the room or other parts of the space and talk to people and socialize. And it keeps me from, staying right next to the food table and snacking all evening. So that also helps as well. But ultimately, I want people to enjoy the holidays. I think that's so important, and eat the foods they like. Life's too short not to do that. But just don't overdo it. And if you do overdo it, tomorrow's another day. Get back on track the next day. Realize it's not the end of the world. You're not going to gain all the weight back that you've lost, prior to that. That's not going to happen. So just get back on track and start, eating healthier again, like you were before. And, hopefully it was all worth it that particular day. You had a great time, and just don't hold that guilt in, because I do see that happen sometimes with people, and they beat themselves up, and And that's a hard thing, especially during the holidays. You want to enjoy yourself. So.
I love that. That's what I love about you. So many things I love, like the PPP I talk about, the plant-based pet and positivity. That's Lisa's model. And, I really love that. Life is too short and it's the holidays and we had 2 hard years in back to back. And but Lisa is here to help you. And if you can do that, that's great. But if not, don't panic over tomorrow is another day. If you want to go run tomorrow morning, you can still do that. Run that tonight. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. Just do it. But enjoy the time. That is wonderful. It's just like so many tricks you talk about, and I think it's also a culture thing. I think that I'm here in Houston in the South and people love to eat. I'm from China, people love to eat. So it's like 2 cultures combined for me. And so that makes me the end product of, loving sweets and everything. So you were talking about the central table. I think you know where to find me. Like people say you find me at chocolate. That's where you can find me. That's why I was asking you that question selfishly for me, because I think I'm going to overdose on the chocolate side, on the sweet side.
But it's easy to do. It's so easy to do.
This is hilarious, but there's some confusion, and I have to say I feel very uneducated about the nutrition side. I just feel very lucky that my system just naturally, I'm kind of gluten sensitive. I cannot digest meat, so I don't eat those much, but I can tolerate sugar. So I eat too much sugar. So I used to argue with people. They were like, no, you eat too much carb. I said, no, I don't eat carb. I'm making up with ice cream. They were like, do you know ice cream is also carb? I said, okay, you got me on that one. I didn't know that. So,
yes,
so now I'm like, okay, I surrender. God, tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. So yeah, that's my weakness. And but and again, that's please correct me if I were wrong. I think like the sugar is like maybe the bread, rice, that carb is worse than the carb from the sugar, or is it vice versa? I think I got a little bit confused about this part.
So there's different types of carbohydrates, and not all carbohydrates are created equal. So you're right, there's carbohydrates that aren't as good for us in our diet, and there's other carbohydrates that really are. And I think carbohydrates overall get a bad reputation. People associate carbohydrate with gaining weight. But that's not the case if you choose the right kind of carbohydrate. The right kinds of carbohydrates offer all kinds of vitamins and minerals that your body needs, to also include an excellent source of energy that your muscles require to perform, basically, and also your brain requires. So it's super important that people do get carbohydrate in their diet, but just choosing the right kind is the most important piece of that. So the right kind of carbohydrate are going to be your whole grains. So anything that's more of a whole grain, so your whole grain breads, your whole grain pastas, more of the brown rice, things along those lines are going to be a lot better choice than your refined breads and pastas, like your white pasta, your white rice, your white breads. So it's better to choose more of the whole grain varieties of those. And that's going to be a better type of complex carbohydrate. And also it's going to offer you more fiber, which is more filling, fills you up a little bit longer, helps curb your appetite. And it's going to offer a lot of times actually offer a lot more vitamins and minerals in those foods too. So that's one example of a complex carbohydrate, along with beans, different types of beans, peas, and lentils. Those are also excellent source of fiber. They're a source of carbohydrate, but again, a very good source, a complex carbohydrate. Another example is going to be your fruits. Fruits have a lot of sugar, yes, but the sugar that's found in fruits is a naturally occurring sugar. So it's fructose, basically, that's found in fruits. So as long as you're eating fresh fruit, frozen fruit, you can have canned fruit, but be sure it doesn't have any added sugar in it. It should be in its own juices or water, or even juice. Juice is fine as long as it's 100% juice, no sugar added. So if you're choosing those kinds of things in the fruit category, you're doing your body good, because all of those nutrients found in fruits are extremely helpful and excellent for your overall health. So fruit is another example of a carbohydrate. And then you have milk. Milk has a naturally occurring sugar in it too, called lactose. And some people can tolerate milk, some people can't. So if you are able to tolerate milk, the importance here is just choosing a very low fat milk, because the fat that's found in milk is more of a saturated fat, and it's not considered to be a healthy fat. So that's why you want to choose a low fat or a fat-free milk. So maybe a 1% or skim milk, ideally. And yogurt is also going to be considered to be a milk as well. So make sure that yogurts do not have any added sugar. So when we talk about carbs that aren't as good for you, that would be carbs with a lot of added sugar. So think of things like cakes and pies and cookies and candies and regular soda, regular Kool-Aid. All of those kinds of things are just going to have a lot of just sugar in them, which does not do your body good. It actually reduces performance in many ways, and it can really help pack on extra weight as well, especially in the form of liquid calories, which I wanted to mention to everyone as well. This is a big thing, I think, during the holidays, when people are drinking more alcohol. They're drinking a lot, maybe eggnog, they're partaking in these beverages. And a lot of times we don't think about the calories that are in those. And if you were to peel back the onion on this and really look at what a person's doing within the course of the day, sometimes I find that most of their calories are coming from just sugary types of drinks. It could be energy drinks, which can be loaded with sugar. It can be your fancy coffees at different coffee places, your cappuccinos and frappes and lattes and different things that can have a lot of added sugar in them that most people don't really think about, and they add up so fast. And I've seen people who have cut back in those areas to also include alcohol and have seen a tremendous weight loss just because of that. And that's the thing they've done differently. But I do think in the holidays, the liquid sweets and the things we partake in, especially alcohol, is increased during the holiday season. And it also makes it where you continue to eat even more because it lowers your inhibitions. So just important to focus in on your liquid calories too. I just wanted to throw that piece in as well, because it sometimes is the culprit in people gaining weight during the holiday season.
That's an excellent reminder. Thank you. Because I think I was one of those who just drink eggnog out of the bottle, like, drinking milk. And I would think it's just the bread, you can actually see physically, like that portion goes in, but it's just liquid. You wouldn't think like,
Right. You don't
how
think
many calories.
No, not at all. So I don't know if that answered your question entirely, but I wanted to be sure to talk about the liquid calories too, because
yes,
they just get forgotten about sometimes.
Right, absolutely. And but I also wanted to ask, sort of the eating schedule, the how many meals a day, and because I was born and raised in a culture, mom would say, eat a lot of food for breakfast and eat a decent sized meal for lunch and small size for dinner. But I love what you said. You actually customize to that person's schedule. It's very unfortunate we don't have the luxury like my mom's generation, like we could actually take the time to sit down and eat breakfast. I'll be driving, I'm just eating a breakfast bar or something, right? So how do we adjust to our lifestyle? And do we skip meals? Do we eat 3 meals? Do we maybe instead of a big breakfast, if I have more time eating at dinner, which is most likely the cases, well, that's my only time to have dinner. What do I do?
So that, again, great question. And this is something I encounter so much on a daily basis, but I will say that all 3 meals, so your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, are all important in their own ways. Breakfast, though, is I've always kind of gravitated towards that meal because that's one of the best opportunities to give you a jump start during the day. First thing in the morning, having a well-balanced meal helps with mental acuity, helps with your energy levels during the day. It gives you more time during the day to burn off those calories because you have it so early on in the day. And there's hundreds of studies proving that people who eat breakfast are thinner than those who don't. So it's a proven fact in that sense. So I always encourage people trying to add a breakfast in if they're not currently doing that. And it doesn't have to be this giant meal. It can be something very simple. I mean, some mornings, like let's see, this morning, so I had like, you know, a toast, whole grain toast, 2 pieces of that with avocado on it and a little bit of juice on the side. So it just took a few minutes to get that together, and that was my breakfast, but at least it's something. You know, it doesn't have to be this giant, you know, meal in the morning, because a lot of people don't have time to do that either. And they may not be morning people either. So they may not want to get up and, you know, put together something to eat. Maybe it doesn't even sit well with them. Maybe it upsets their stomach to eat too early in the day. So I factor all of these things in to come up with the best times for them to eat based on what works best for them. But a rule of thumb is trying to get in, you know, those 3 meals ideally within the course of the day, because if you're not getting that, a couple things happen. One is your blood sugar levels throughout the course of the day are not a steady level. So they peak and they go down throughout the course of the day, and that affects your energy levels. So people who are eating a little more frequently through the day have better energy. And I get questions about that all the time, is how do I improve my energy? How do I feel better? And the way to do that is to try to eat a little more frequently, trying to get those 3 meals a day at a minimum. The other thing the 3 meals a day is important for is that it keeps people from getting too hungry. So what I see happen a lot, actually, if I had $1 for everybody that tells me they do this, I'd be a very rich woman. But what they do is they skip breakfast. They may or may not eat lunch because of their work schedule. They may be very busy during the day. And then by the time they get home from work, they are so hungry that the moment they step in the door, they go straight to the kitchen and just begin eating, and they don't stop until they go to bed. So that's one of the worst things you could do for your health. Over time, that affects your metabolism rate. Your metabolism starts to slow. You start packing on weight, and you feel like you're not even eating that much because you're not eating through the whole day, but yet you're taking in all of these calories at the very end part of the day and then turning around and going to bed. So over time, it starts really affecting your waistline and your overall health. This is what I see a lot of times happen to people that are diagnosed with high blood pressure or high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes. These are some of the behaviors that lead up to some of those problems, definitely in terms of lifestyle. So when I see people who eat that way, the first thing I do is figure out what their schedule looks like, and I help them try to fit in healthy eating where and when they can. I give them ideas. I explain super easy things they can take with them to work every day, to make it very simple and easy for them to do. Because I think that's the key, is to make it easy for people. If it starts getting complex and it takes a lot of time to do meal preparation and things along those lines, they won't do it. So I make it a point to come up with easy, simple solutions based on their food likes and dislikes, based on their work schedule, and I help them, you know, meet their goals that way. So, but that's an excellent question. And in a summary is just to try to get those 3 meals in the day. If you're not getting 3 meals a day right now, maybe you're only getting 1 or 2, just gradually increase it so you eventually start getting the 3 meals, and try to have those meals about the same time each day as well. You'll start feeling hungry right before each meal, and that's a good sign. That means your metabolism is shifting and your body's becoming more efficient at burning calories. So you're going to see more progress in terms of weight maintenance or weight loss.
You know, that actually fits right in the culture and the way I was brought up. Unfortunately, you know, we live in a society, and I got a hard question. I think that's a controversy for you. Like, people long time ago, I thought, fasting is like a religious thing, like they do for Ramadan. I'm like, okay, I'm not religious. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna go to the Ramadan party because they have a lot of food afterwards. So I'll go. But then they were like, okay, people actually have those for a way of them losing weight. And coming from my culture, I said no, because I remember like I used to be lectured. That's a Chinese thing, like lecture at the dinner table. Mom would say, eat 3 meals, like I said, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then they will even encourage you to like, I remember I will have like, snacks throughout the day. So they will actually pack me lunch, but also snacks throughout the day. So I have a habit of eating all the time. I don't get insulted because we love pigs. So people say, how come you eat like a pig and you're so skinny? I said, well, that's how we do. So I totally agree with you about eating all the time, snacking throughout the day and everything. But if we talk to people who believe in this, fasting thing, so how do we explain? Because I'm confused, and I'm now, at this age, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to pack on the weight. Do I really go fast? But I'm gonna start to this because I would be just like what you said. And I tried. Trust me, I tried. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm shaking, I'm hungry, I'm starving, and I'm eating all that. And what I heard when I was little, before this whole thing came out, mom used to say, if you don't eat until, when you finally get to eat, then the body has, whatever that signal or the cells will tell you, say, okay, you better grab every calorie that's in that, meal, and then it will store it.
That's
so
right.
Yeah,
that's true. And I would say to those people who are doing intermittent fasting, which is a very popular thing right now, and not just even from a religious standpoint and Ramadan and some of those sorts of things, but just specifically for a method to lose weight. I think there's a lot of interesting science behind it. And the last thing I do when I talk to people is condone any of those types of behaviors, because they may see success from it. It may be working for them. So if I'm telling them, oh, don't do this, they're going to tune me out. They're not going to want to listen to what I have to say because it seems to be working for them. They may have found something that works. And it goes back to every person is unique and different. So what works for, sorry, my light keeps going off. What works for one person is not going to work for everyone. So I've tried to do some fasting in the past to try to see how my body is affected by that. And unfortunately, it doesn't work too well with me. I have low blood sugar episodes where my blood sugar goes too low and I'll get shaky and very weak and nauseated. So I'm the type of person that has to eat more frequently. But then I encounter other people, on the other hand, that can have these fasting windows and they feel really, really good. And they're seeing success with weight loss. They feel good. Their energy levels are up. So it's very, very dependent on that person and what works best for them and their biochemistry. So I would say that if there's people out there that are doing the intermittent fasting, if they need to focus on it within their window of eating, try to get in the nutrients and the calories they need during that window of time. So if they have a 6-hour window of eating, trying to spread the meals out in a way where they can at least meet their baseline nutrient needs. So that's really important. And I help people do that all the time. So then the rest of the day they're fasting, but at least during their window of eating, they're getting what they need to sustain their body and make sure they're getting enough nutrients.
right. Yeah, the Chinese culture is like food is your medicine. So mom would just say, I don't take vitamins, I just take food.
Yes.
So that's another controversy. Sorry, I'm asking you all those controversies because I get those yet because I come from a culture that is like totally different. And I'm like, mom, I have a busy lifestyle and my metabolism is slowing down. Back then I could eat all the food that has all the nutrients, but I can't. So do I want to put on weight? But if I don't want to put on weight, then do I take the supplement? What is your opinion about real food versus supplement?
So I always prefer that people eat real food because the components found in food when they're broke down in the body, are truly what helps prevent different types of chronic problems or acute problems even. So in terms of cancer, different types of cancers, heart disease, diabetes. So it's so important that they're getting the nutrients they need throughout the day. And it's not going to work the same if they are just taking the supplement. I only recommend supplements if that individual simply just can't meet some of their nutritional needs in some areas. For instance, so I do see people all the time that can't tolerate dairy products, and they're not eating the right types of foods in their diet to get the calcium and vitamin D that they need. So then I would recommend a calcium and vitamin D supplement in cases like that. It's just very individualized based on that person, but I always resort to food first. So if I can get them to eat more calcium fortified foods, or more green leafy vegetables, or more fish with the little bones, and so they're getting extra calcium in there, that's what I'm going to recommend to them first. But if that's not going to work for them, maybe they don't like those kinds of foods, then I talk to them about a supplement at that point. Same thing for my vegetarians, my vegans. When you're on diets like that, it's important that they do supplement certain types of things, because you can find yourself deficient in them if you're not careful. So again, very individualized, but I think super important if you're taking out foods in your diet for whatever reason. If you're intolerant to them, if you have allergies to them, if you just don't like them, then there may be a need to supplement. But it's always best to get the nutrients from the food if at all possible. And a variety of food too, because every food has different nutrients in it. So that's the other thing I see a lot of times, during the holiday season, or really any time during the year, is people tend to choose the same foods to eat all the time, because it takes the thinking out of it. It just makes it easy. I even have trouble with that sometimes when I go grocery shopping. I find myself buying the same kinds of things. And so I've made it a point now to, when I go to produce section, picking out something different, something new I've never tried, and trying to change it up and get more variety in your diet. And then, at that point, if you're doing that, you're getting more of a wide range of nutrients, and the supplementation wouldn't be needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, if I may, I heard that the more colorful they are, the more nutrition it has.
True. You want to eat the colors of the rainbow is what we say.
Ah, okay. Yes, that's the American way of saying, eat the colors of the rainbow. I love that. Yeah, definitely will remember that. Yeah, because I grew up like mom used to go to the grocery every day, and everything is freshly made. Even like the chicken soup is like made from scratch. Takes hours to make it. And I can just like remember that fond memory of it when I come home from school and she's cooking them. But these days are difficult to find with our busy schedules, but we still need to take advantage of that. And Lisa mentioned about, the vegetarian friends that are listening to, the vegan friends that are listening to. Again, I felt like every time I talk to Lisa, like time just flies by. So I think really we're definitely gonna bring you back, right? Again.
There's so much to talk about. I mean, I still have even more holiday tips. So there's
I promise I will not ask more questions. I'm gonna let you, tell more tips, but we're definitely gonna bring you back to talk more. Yeah. So tell us more about, the holiday tips to our audience about how to survive.
How to survive the holidays. So again, the importance, I think, when it comes to going through the holidays and still feeling healthy and good after the holidays are over, is really just trying to focus on weight maintenance. And the best way you'll achieve that is controlling portions. And then also activity is really important as well. And we haven't really talked about that so much in this particular episode, but trying to get a minimum of about 7,000 steps a day is really important. Trying to just move your body any chance you get, because every time you do that, you're burning some extra calories. Doing less sitting, more up, moving around. That is always beneficial, especially again during the holiday season when we're lounging out on the couch, eating our Thanksgiving meal, watching football games all day. And it's nice. It's awesome to, have that kind of time to do those things. but still trying to keep your activity level up, I think really helps keep your weight in check during the holiday season. It doesn't even have to be planned workouts. Just moving your body as much as possible is important. Getting out, walking the dog, maybe getting up and walking around the house every time there's a commercial or something like that. Any chance you have to get those extra steps in is really important. Another thing too, I wanted to mention is with holiday parties and different get-togethers, it's really important that you don't go to those functions if you're starving. So you want to have a snack of some kind, or maybe drink some calorie-free beverages, drinking more water, something that will fill you up a little bit. So when you go to those functions, you're not ravenous and you don't instantly go to the food table and eat. So that's an important tip too, because I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We almost want to save up our calories all day for that function, but that may not be the best thing to do in terms of keeping your portions better controlled. It's just very easy to overdo it if you're starving.
I promised I wouldn't ask, but I do have one more question. You said water and hydration, right? I just put it away. So I had this coconut water, and it's
Yes.
like a new trend, and people said no, it's very like natural electrolyte. So is it better to just drink water? Or I think the Gatorade or whatever. I was at the doctor's office one day, and I literally had a bottle of Gatorade in my hand. I'm like, okay, electrolyte, and then it was on the wall. It says I think Gatorade was the number 1 or number 2 on sugar. I look at the bottle, I say goodbye, and then just throw it away. Right. So do I drink water or do I drink, coconut water, or, what are the choices?
So I think as long as the beverage is sugar-free, doesn't have a lot of added sugar in it, it's probably going to be fine. And everybody's different with this too, in their belief on this, because sometimes you'll pick up beverages that have artificial sweeteners in them. And that's also a really big topic in itself, because that's a very personal choice on whether you want to consume products that have that in it or not. Because they're more chemically engineered, and so a lot of people believe that they could cause them health problems. But ultimately, it's a personal decision. But I will say that when you're drinking beverages, like what we were talking about earlier, just be sure they're as low in calories as possible. And that really will save you so many calories. Water is always the best. Water's the forgotten nutrient, and people literally will forget to drink throughout the day, but it's probably one of the most important things to do is stay hydrated for so many different reasons. But the goal for fluid a day, which I don't think I've talked about in the show yet, but I want to be sure to bring it up today, is if you take half your body weight, break it down, divide it in half. So if you're 180 pounds, divide that in half. So that would be about 90 ounces of fluid you would need a day, preferably water. So that's that's a very simple way of figuring out what your fluid needs are. And the key is just drinking throughout the whole day, trying not to save up all your water for the end of the day. Same thing with food, you're kind of drinking throughout the day, drinking more water, or calorie-free beverages are fine too. So as long as there's just not a lot of that added sugar in there. That's what causes the issues with those extra calories and weight gain.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for clarifying, because obviously, when it's getting colder, and we just got hit by the cold front last weekend. It was so cold, and I imagine that that pumpkin spice latte in the morning was extra. Well, whipped cream or whatever. That's what I would do. But we never think, like you talk about the eggnog. Never thought this would like pack us with like I don't know how many calories. I really need to start looking at that. Yeah, but that's gonna just pack us half of probably the calorie of the day, if or maybe a quarter. That's still a lot for that. Yeah, so I think I love the water idea and the calorie-free drinks and all those, and definitely I'm gonna practice myself and we're, like I said, we're definitely gonna bring you back, and so that we can check in, see how I did it. Did I do good homework?
Good.
Following your
Awesome.
instructions, right? And I do have one question. Are there any healthy substitutes, right? I know we talked about artificial sweeteners or maybe personal choices, and then also the holidays. People are maybe like baking stuff, and so maybe are there healthier ways? I know, like it's a shame. I used to love sweet tomatoes, and I know it's like very popular on the West Coast, and it closed down due to COVID. But they had that gluten-free muffin. Oh my God, I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. But what are your suggestions that people can have baked goods and still maintain their healthy weight?
Yes. So there are so many different ways that you can manipulate recipes when you're making holiday goodies and things like that that involve baking, or even foods that you don't necessarily, you're not baking. It could be a variety of different types of holiday foods that you try that you can substitute higher fat things, taking those out and substituting with something a little bit better, but keeping the flavor. So that's the most important part for people. I know a lot of times is making sure it still tastes really good, but yet it's going to be a lot healthier. So I do have a whole list of recipe modifications that people may be interested in. So it's a whole sheet of information on that. So what I can do, if you're interested, is I can send that over to you. I don't know how you get that out to your listeners, but I'd be happy to get that over to you and share that with everyone, because it's just a really, I keep it, I have that sheet actually with all of my cookbooks as a reminder of all these different substitutions I can make when I bake that make a really big difference in reducing sugar and fat in a lot of the recipes that we traditionally make during the holiday season.
Absolutely. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna include, our email in the content section. So for those who are interested, and I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of, special questions for Lisa. So we're gonna collect all the questions, and depending on the number of questions, we may, get to you and answer them individually. But
Sure.
if it gets to like a certain quantity, we might have to get you back on. I know I definitely want to get you back on again. So we're gonna keep this the secret with our audience yet. So, but yeah, we can, you can request if you would like this list of modified recipe. I think that would be very popular, especially for the coming holiday season. We don't have ovens in China, believe it or not when I grow up. So my parents have to buy the oven from Japan. They sell them now. But as a result, it's not the tradition. I don't really know how to bake, but I'm certainly very curious about baking, these recipes while eating something tasty but still stay healthy. So
Yes.
that is wonderful. Oh my God, Lisa, I'm in love with you. It's just like you're
It's my
so
pleasure.
smart and so beautiful inside and out. just like have so much to offer. And I'm learning and taking notes. I've got like there's 2 pages like writing down already. And but I think the key is that we all have this idea, and then we write it down. We practice one day, and then we practice 1 week, and we forget about
Right.
it. So
That's true. And really it comes down to focusing on just one thing that you can improve on based on some of the things we talked about today, and just really work on that one thing. And during the holiday season, after the holiday season, until you master that, and then move on to something else. I think where people they get a little overwhelmed and they try to do everything at once. So there's no need to do that. Just take each thing separately that you need to zone in on when it comes to your nutrition. And then just continue to work on things. Once you master that skill, then work on the next one. And when when you're doing that, it's less overwhelming, and you're more apt to make a lot of positive changes and for the long haul, for your lifetime.
beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. So besides this, is there any other takeaway that you would like to our audience before you get off?
No, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate having me on again. I mean, this is such an honor. I love it. I just want to help people. So if there's anyone out there that has questions for me, specific questions to you and what your lifestyle looks like, what concerns you have, I am more than willing to assist you with that in any way I can. So thank you again for the opportunity. And I'm wishing everybody out there a happy Thanksgiving, because it will be here before we know it.
I know, happy Thanksgiving. And like I said, when I met Lisa, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna do a special show for Lisa back to back, because you know she got so much to offer. And this is the hot topic about the holidays. And we're so glad that you know you are able to make this. And thank you again for what you do and helping with the community. And for those who doesn't know that Lisa, well, you should, because she's Miss Southern Nevada. So Lisa is based out of Las Vegas. So you know, if you're local, you may be able to seek help directly from Lisa. That would be great. And we'll certainly, you know, put her, you know, contact information, or you can contact through us. And once again, you're watching the Miss Texas show, and this is the holiday season. We love you all. And this is the platform, a voice of hope, love, and unity. And we all wish you a happy holidays. Thank you again for your time, Lisa.
Of course. Thanks, everybody.